Welcome to this video on reading Keats psychoanalytically. I am Professor Jaswant Rathod, head of the Department of English at Government Arts and Commerce College, Netrang Baru, Gujarat. Psychoanalytic criticism is a form of literary criticism that uses psychoanalytic techniques to interpret literature. It assumes artistic creation is an indirect projection of repressed desires and conflicts. It also exposes interactions between the conscious and unconscious elements of the author and their characters. Interpretation suggests that with the, quote, death of the author, multiple readings of a text are possible, creating new texts. My interpretation remains open to challenges and rectification, highlighting the large scope of subjective criticism. In literature like Love and War, everything is considered fair. The objectives of this video are to provide a critical overview of psychoanalytic theory. We will explore the connections between an author, their work, and their mindset. Finally, we aim to analyze John Keats and his work psychoanalytically. Sigmund Freud posited that language explores our personality and exposes the, quote, hidden desires in veiled forms. Language is a symbolic representation of our wishes, dreams, and desires, serving as a medium for depicting these inner desires. Psychoanalysis, although not always scientifically proven, questions, quote, common sense facts of consciousness. It suggests stages of socialization with problems arising from the unconscious. Neurotic and psychotic disorders are common, stemming from a mismatch between bodily desires and social roles. Critics raise objections, noting that psychoanalytic examination is unscientific, relying on maybe. Interpreters venture into unknown domains, potentially yielding interpretations that are neither correct nor authentic. It may also lead to inept psychobiography or vulgar Freudianism imposed on the art object. Critics point out limitations in psychoanalytic examination. It neglects the social and public contexts of the text. It also oversimplifies the complexity of the text, multiple authors, and social relations, while perhaps overly focusing on dreams, fantasy, and ideology. Examining a work or author psychoanalytically is innovative, because dreams arise from the author's unsatisfied unconventional roles. Both the author and reader are subject to the unconscious. The theory links sexuality and social role, suggesting utterances concern the satisfaction of the body, which has been socialized. Sigmund Freud introduced key concepts of psychoanalytic theory. These include the unconscious's role in the production and consumption of arts, the concept of repression, the role of sexual instincts, and models of the psyche and the human mind's psychical apparatus. Freud's 3 points of view are dynamic, economic, and topographical. The dynamic view focuses on the interplay of forces and tensions arising from instinctual drives. The economic view concerns pleasure and unpleasure based on bodily disturbance, involving conflict between the pleasure and reality principles. The topographical view divides the mind into conscious, preconscious, and unconscious, mediating energy conflict. The ID relates to instinctual drives from constitutional body needs. The ego, developed from the ID, is the agency that regulates and opposes these drives. The superego represents parental and social influences on the drives, transforming them. Conscious awareness equals the perception system, sensing and ordering the external world. The preconscious includes elements that can be recalled to consciousness at will. The unconscious contains everything kept out of the preconscious conscious system. The unconscious has a strong, decisive influence on our actions. It is regulated, controlled, and repressed, containing instinctual desires, repressed ideas, and images. It is not fixed, but characterized by a dynamic interplay and shifts of feelings from one to another. Repression involves forgetting or ignoring unresolved conflicts, unadmitted desires, and traumatic past events. We force these things out of our conscious awareness, and they go to the realm of the unconscious. The theory of repression posits that the id's desires, if unacceptable, threaten the ego. Memories associated with these wishes become unpleasant and are barred from consciousness. Repression is essentially turning something away and keeping it at a distance from conscious awareness. The return of the repressed is when guilt-laden wishes emerge, despite repression. Symptoms, dreams, and Freudian slips mark the emergence of forbidden wishes and the resistance to them. Sublimation is a process where repressed material is promoted or disguised as something noble. To interpret a text psychoanalytically, one considers the text as an implicit expression of the author's unconscious, using imagery and symbols. The author writes through metaphor, showing repressed desires. Events and characters are indirect expressions of the writer's own experiences. Key strategies include analyzing transference, how a character redirects emotions, and projection, where the author projects repressed emotions onto characters. We also look at defense mechanisms to avoid painful admissions, and Freudian slips, which are unintended actions. Other strategies involve relating, quote, overt content with conscious, and quote, content with the unconscious. We pay close attention to the unconscious motives of the author or characters, and identify the, quote, psychic context of the work. Individual psychodrama is often preferred over social conflict. Further strategies include finding the distinction between the conscious and unconscious of the author. We also focus on uncovering the unconscious motives of the character or author. We can analyze dreams or works of art for displacement, where one person or event is symbolically substituted. Condensation is also key, where multiple people, events, or meanings are combined into a single image. Now we begin the psychoanalytical interpretation of John Keats. He lived a short life, from 1795 to 1821. Key traumatic events include the death of his father in 1804 when he was 9, his mother in 1810, and his brother Tom in 1818. Regarding his career, Keats apprenticed as a surgeon but left to become a poet. His work was harshly criticized, which some believe hastened his death. He was mocked as a Cockney poet and was not successful in his lifetime, writing that he hoped to be counted among English poets after his death. In terms of love and emotions, biographical details suggest a deep emotional attachment to his mother, whose death was a great shock. Frances Fanny Braun Linden is known as the fiancée and muse to Keats. A famous love letter reveals his intense devotion. "My love has made me selfish. I cannot exist without you. Love is my religion. I could die for that. I could die for you." He expresses overwhelming absorption and fear of separation. Keats' defense mechanism included escaping into nature, viewing it as pure compared to the cruel world. He found nature gentle, contrasting with human cruelty, as seen in lines like, "The clouds were pure and white as phlox nishorn." In Ode to a Nightingale, Keats expresses a desire to escape to the bird's world, finding happiness in its joy. He wishes to, quote, fade far away, dissolve and quite forget the cruel world for the world of the nightingale, dreams and fantasy. In the same ode, Keats becomes numb and likes the drowsiness of his mind, liking the imaginary world. He wants to fly with the wings of poetry, using art as a medium to escape. His deep desire to live is reflected in wishing to accompany the immortal bird. In Ode on a Grecian Urn, Keats wishes to join the pipe player on the urn, seeking to be lost in the world of art and beauty. The structure of the escape, represented by ESCAPE, signifies his enjoyment of the dream, the sweetness of unheard music, completeness, aspired love, evolving passions, and emotions for a happy world. Why does Keats seek this escape from reality? In Ode to a Nightingale, he describes the world as full of weariness, fever, and fret, where beauty fades and youth dies. Keats contrasts the world of nature, which is truth and beauty, with the real world of suffering, opposing the mortal with the immortal, and art with reality. His escape involves a projection into an eternal lover. In Ode on a Grecian Urn, Keats describes the happy bough that cannot shed its leaves, and the happy melodist piping eternal songs. He projects himself as the lover who is perpetually young and capable of loving forever. Why is this projection necessary? Keats' reality is one of a burning forehead and a parching tongue. This imagery highlights the tragic contrast between the harsh reality he faces and the blissful, imaginative world he desires. Reading Keats' odes psychoanalytically involves examining concepts like transference, where he redirects emotions into the lover character, and projection, where he projects himself as an eternal lover or nightingale. Defense mechanisms are evident in his preference for the permanent stagnation of the urn. Finally, Freudian slips show his wish to remain in the world of the nightingale. In a psychoanalytic reading, we relate the overt content, his tragic current condition, with the covert content, his unconscious wishes for happiness. We focus on unconscious motives and the psychic context, prioritizing Keats' individual psychodrama over social conflicts. We must distinguish between Keats' conscious and unconscious mind. Consciously, he knows the world is imperfect, leading him to take shelter in the unconscious, blissful world of art. We aim to uncover his covert motives, his deep urges to live and love. Keats uses projections, such as the lover on the urn and the nightingale, as a, quote, return of the repressed. In both odes, his deep desires for a complete, immortal, and happy world are portrayed in disguised forms. The odes should be read as a subjective portrayal of personal passions, searching for love, beauty, and truth in the unconscious world. Thank you for watching this video. The search for a deeper understanding of Keats' work and his unconscious mind continues.